What if I told you Fantex cheating?
What?
Arctic cheating.
Why wasn't I told?
Lee and Lee cheating. But then it took Noctua 7 years.
You know how much I sacrificed?
To come up with the generation 2 of this fan. And why is Noctua not cheating and the other fan manufacturers are? And why is this Noctua fan the absolute best in the world? Well, you're gonna find out. Especially if you're a creator and you don't want your PC to be loud. These fans take it to a whole other level, and you're probably gonna see everybody else start copying Noctua.
Our entire staff certifies the product ready for human testing.
So let's have a look at what they've done and why this is important. It's so annoying. I don't want to pay hundreds of dollars to just change my Windows wallpaper just because my Windows isn't licensed. Well, why don't you try Hookies? That's a ton cheaper, and if you use the code TN20, you get it even cheaper. What do you mean? How do I get it and how is it possible? Well, see this video here, or the one you're watching? Click in the link on the video description, add the Windows 11 CD product to the cart, proceed to checkout, add the code TN20 for the extra discount. So what, the Windows 11 Pro OEM key is just $23.22? Yeah. Choose the preferred payment option and complete the purchase. The key will be available on the purchased orders in a few moments. Copy the key and paste it into your Windows activation settings, and you're all done. Oh, that was easy. Is that Ryan Gosling? No. Anyway, by the way, the same discount code also works website-wide, so go check out other products, maybe like Microsoft Office. They didn't just come up with kind of one fan. There's lots of interesting things going on. As you can see, this is called SX2PP. Then we've got an LS version and then just normal G2 version. What's the difference? What's changed? I'm gonna show you that all. Firstly, we're gonna talk about this fan because this has been the benchmark for 7 years, maybe even more. And then finally they came out with the black version of exactly the same thing. Yet the black one actually changed something because as you can see, the middle of the fan is slightly different than on here. We don't have that metal in there anymore. It's all covered. I'm gonna put these fans on the side for a minute. We're going to take a look at these just a second and show you the comparison, but we just want to show you exactly what has happened here and where do these new Noctua fans come in. So firstly, this is the normal fan in here, and the A12 means that this is the 12 centimeter or 120 millimeter version of this fan. So in the package you get this and a few accessories. You do have this vibration bracket in there as well that you can actually put on the fan. And the cool thing is basically what you can do with this bit, we're just already getting this video all over the place because let's see what happens. So basically the back of the fan in here, you can replace it with this. And what that will do is you take these rubbers off and then you put this in the back. But this would create a nice little seal all the way around. The reason you want this seal is because this fan will create very good static pressure. The new Arctic Liquid Freezer Pro, I'll make another video about them, the Pro one. If you're just going to put the fan in the back here, what will happen is, can you see there's a little gap between the radiator and in there? But this seal would help to cover it all, which basically means that the air wouldn't come out from here, but it would push all the air through the radiator, creating better static pressure. Hey, if you haven't subscribed yet, consider subscribing. I'm going to show you how these perform. If you want to check any of these out, links in the description below. Then you get some of these rubber mounts and a few different noise adapters and then Y splitters and things like that that come with the fan. Now, if you look at the fans side by side, you can see actually a huge difference what's happened. This is G1, this is G2. There's lots of different ways how they have changed it in a very, very fine way. And let me try to show you some of these things that has taken 7 years to engineer. One of the first things that you see is the clearance between the fan plate end here and the frame is just the smallest you'll see on the market. Noctua was very good even with the previous fan. As you can see, it's very, very close in there, but with the newer one, they've gone even further. It's even better. It's absolutely ridiculous. They've fine-tuned every single bit of this fan. As you can see, one of the other things is you can see that the center column in here has become smaller. So the previous one was 51 millimeters in diameter, whereas the newer one is 43, which basically means that now the fan blade area is a lot bigger compared to the previous version. So as you can see, in previous version, we only had about 30 millimeters where the fan blades were occupying, so 30 millimeters around. So the area of this was actually smaller. But now, even though the size 120 millimeters is still there, the blade area is about 34.5 millimeters, which just gives a lot more area in the same fan dimensions to push more air through. And if you look on the top, another thing you can see is straight down. Take a look how much you see through from the fan on the G1 versus the G2. You can see that there's a lot more gap where you see through on the G1 compared to G3, which basically that means is there's more coverage of the area that was scooping their air and pushing them through. It took them many, many different tries to design these fan blades to scoop the air the most efficient, quiet way possible and have equal load on the fan. Another thing you can see is the fan blade on the actual ball or the actual middle center starts from low and then the blade comes up high. In here, it's the same on G1, but not as big of a curve or like not as big down. So it goes right down and then kind of comes up and it really scoops the air a lot better. And it does look a little bit more like a ship propeller rather than an air vent propeller like we have on this side. So what else has changed is they've designed the side of these rings. As you can see, there's little kind of lines on the side of the end of the frame. That has also changed from the previous one, slightly different to kind of make the air scoop in there a little bit better. They've made the frame a little bit stronger in terms of construction. If we're looking at the fans on the side, you can see there's little arrows and little things on the side of the frame in there, whereas there's nothing on this side of the frame. Frame is empty. Then another thing we can see is the top of the kind of a motor has changed. These little grooves on top, they're also designed. This is supposed to kind of feed the air a little bit better towards the fan blades and have equal pressure all on the fan blades to just give you the best performance. All these tiny little things have changed. As you can see, it's quite different compared to the previous one. The fan depth hasn't changed, and I'll tell you in a minute why this is absolutely amazing and fascinating. Looking at the back of the fan, let's put them exactly the same way. What we can see is these blades have changed slightly. As you can see, they've gone smaller, these frame edges, to just be less restrictive when you're pushing air through. As you can see in there, they're a lot more bigger and taking a lot more space compared to this. It even feels like the ends of the blades are a lot more sharper compared to the previous one. The previous one is a little more thicker, whereas this feels like a little bit more kind of a scoop of a blade this way. There's a lot of very interesting engineering going through here that they've taken 7 years to do. Another one of the interesting things you can see here is the previous one was running 2000 RPM. The newer one is doing 1800 RPM. So it is slower than the previous one, but at the same time, it takes a little bit more power. It's 1.8 watts compared to the 1.68 watts, 0.14 amperes compared to 0.15 amperes. I'm not sure why that is exactly that. I think it's because the fan blade thickness and the fan blades have gone bigger. Even though it is running smaller, there is bigger pressure towards the fan blades, and that's why it takes a little bit more air. So there's air resistance to the fan blades, which means that it will just take a little bit more power. In a minute, I'm going to talk about the difference in terms of performance, and then you'll see why all these little things are impressive. So this is this basic standard version of the fan. What are the other versions that Noctua has done so we can actually compare the difference? Firstly, we're going to take a look at the G2 LS. So the only difference basically here is the LS. What is the actual difference? If you look at the fan, it looks exactly the same, and if you look at the design, there's no difference here. The only difference is when you actually look in here, you can see that the LS is low speed, 1100 RPM compared to 1800 RPM. Sometimes you just don't need it to be as fast, or you just want the low speed version. So then there's the low speed version of the fan. That's pretty simple and straightforward. But then what about NFA12 X25 G2 SX2PP? So if we are looking at the fans, again, they look exactly the same as before. You've seen that design before. And if we're looking on the back, we see 1850, so it's basically the same. What is going on in here exactly? This is a very clever thing that Noctua has done. And if you know anything about Noctua, then Noctua wants to give you the best performance at the lowest noise rating possible. There are some other fan companies, Fantex T30, that just want to give you really good performance, but the fan is really, really loud. And sometimes it doesn't matter. If it's a server room and it doesn't matter, it's okay. But if it's your PC, personal computer on the desk, it actually does matter. So basically what the PPS-X2PP means is Noctua has changed the actual fan RPM ever so slightly to stop what's called a resonance or harmonics. What happens when you sing in a choir or when you are in a sound system, it works exactly the same. So when you're in a big concert, I've talked about this before, often what you can do is you can put some of the speakers or subwoofers on top of each other, and then you can actually amplify them over both of their power, because you make the sound waves come together, and at certain points they amplify like more than what it actually produces, if that makes sense. It's called like harmonics or resonance, or I'm not exactly sure how the term is, but basically at certain frequencies, when the frequencies come together, you get another noise with it. In order to separate that and try to make them cancel each other out, all you have to do is get the two fans' speeds and then just adjust them ever so slightly so that they're not working exactly the same speed next to each other. And basically you don't get this choir effect, and sometimes you get this noise called in the PC. This is what is against it. You don't necessarily need Noctua fans to do that, because I've said this on the channel, you can do that manually if you know how to tune each fan header separately in BIOS. What you have to do is then just make the fan curves slightly differently, and then they kind of work differently. Not a lot of people don't have the time and know how to do that, so all they do is just put everything on one fan header or one fan hub and then just rank them up. Your PC is just loud. But now if you install these Noctua fans together onto the PC, what they do is they just naturally are different speeds. All you want to do is make sure that the PPA and PPB, you don't have the same letter next to each other. So if you buy multiple sets of this dual fan sets or different fans, you don't want A to be next to A and B to be next to B. So if you had another set of these, for example, and you need them on a radiator 360 millimeters, you want to put the A in the middle and B's on both sides, or vice versa, A's on both sides and then B in the middle. As you can see, there is 100 RPM difference between them two. So the A goes 1750 RPM, and then the B goes 1850 RPM. Interestingly, the 850 goes a lot more wattage compared to this. So 100 RPM makes 0.02 ampere difference. It's 1.92 watts compared to 1.68 watts. Now, what about the performance? Because everybody's wanting to hear about the performance. At first, I want to give you a little comparison what the other fan manufacturers are doing at the same time. So if we are taking at the look of this Fantex T30, for example, one of the best fans that you can get on the market, with an asterisk, because it's very loud and it is very powerful. And if you're not scared of kind of the noise, then it is one of the best, because there's so much brute force that this fan has. If we're looking at the back in here, basically there is 3 performance modes. The advanced mode on the back there makes this fan go 3000 RPM. Compared to the 1800 on the Noctua one. That's over 50% increase in fan speeds. Not just that, Fantex has also made the fan 5mm deeper. That's another way of making the fans bigger. You basically have bigger hands, you're scooping more air, make them run faster. So instead of making your engine more efficient and lowering the capacity of your engine, what you're doing is just whacking a bigger V8, V10 on it, like a Viper with a 6.8 liter V10. You just pushing more power through, and that's how you get the power. Now, is this the way forward? Noctua disagrees, but other manufacturers actually disagree with Noctua. The same thing with Arctic. Arctic P12 Max 120mm fan. Now this is 25mm deep, so no issues in there. But if you look at the RPM, it goes 3300 RPM. It goes very, very fast. So instead of making it quieter and better performing, let's just crank it up a bit faster so it pushes more fan in, because the fan blades are going faster. What happens when the fan blades go faster? There's more noise. Noctua went backwards. they're making the fans slower because they can perform better and quieter than previous generation. That's a very interesting point there. Then we've got Lee Unifans. These are the P28. The 28 stands for 28 millimeters in depth. Very, very good fans. Amazing. I'm liking them black, but 28 millimeters deep. And the fan speed goes to 2,600 RPM, which means that, again, we've gone the same route. Deeper, faster, kind of cheating. Don't you agree? So let's take a look at some of these results from Noctua, how they have performed against their own previous version. Noctua is actually very nice. They're not putting other manufacturer fan in there. They're just comparing, hey, this is our previous thing. We'll show you how much the new one is better. You might be saying, why don't you test the fans yourself? Well, because I'm not in an environment where I can actually show you test results that can be taken seriously, because I might fart in here, that raises the room temperature a little bit higher, and then, you know, one result is skewed. Perhaps this G1 now performs better. By the time I start the G2, it's a lot warmer. I can't control the environment temperature in here. That's why I can't really show you these results. I'm gonna have to rely on Noctua. So firstly, we're looking at highly optimized P and Q curve for all applications. Static pressure on the left side and then airflow. So you can see that the green one is the G2, so the new version, and then the blue one is the old version. So as you can see, at every single airflow, we are having more static pressure, and it's just better in every single option there. Now, this is quite impressive here. Cooling performance on 120 times 49 millimeter water cooling radiator. So 49 millimeter is actually very, very deep. I want to know if they actually tested it on Arctic radiator. This is 38, so that 49 millimeter is even deeper. Is that height? I think height has even deeper one. They've gone with a very, very deep radiator. And the reason perhaps why they wanted to do that is to showcase really the air pressure, because if the radiator is very deep, that's got a lot of resistance. That means that your fans need to be very good to kind of push the air through and make pressure on it for the air to go through. Looking at these results, the green one is the new version, blue one is the old version, and obviously because it's temperature, what we want to see is lower. Green one is a lot lower in here. It's about 3.5 degrees lower, but if you look at what's actually happening is it's running lower speed, which means quieter, and is 3.5 degrees lower. Now looking at the heatsink performance, so NHU12A, you know Noctua's cooler, we've tested a few of these on the channel. You can see their new version is 1 degree basically cooler CPU temperature at 200 watt heat load. And we're running lower RPM, which means quieter, cooler, improving the performance. Case cooling, exactly the same. Here we're measuring cubic meters per hour. So how much air can we shift through? So not just static pressure here now, but how much air can we just push through in there? And as you can see, it's quite a bit more on the new version compared to the old version, and the old version is louder and runs faster. So this one, what they're showing in here is basically if they're putting their fans on the Noctua GPU. Remember the Noctua 4080 Super? We've tested this on the channel. It's pretty cool. If they change their old fans up to the new ones, you can see that basically running the new ones even 100 RPM lower, you're getting 2.6 degrees the lower temperature, which just shows that these fans are just absolutely amazing. So regarding the performance, what can we see? Instead of going faster and thicker like all the other manufacturers, Noctua has gone the other way. Let's slow them down and make them quieter and just better at what they're doing. I think this is absolutely fantastic, but I'm waiting for one thing. Not a lot of people like the brown color. Now, the enthusiasts, they love the brown color because that brown color tells them a story. It tells them premium fan, it tells them quiet performance, it tells them good endurance, because these come with 6-year manufacturer's warranty. A lot of people are probably waiting for these. The Chromax Black of Noctua G2, and there's some bad news. You're gonna have to wait till next year because Noctua's saying basically, you know, it's probably coming at Q1 2026. They haven't officially said it, but you know, that's where we can expect this. Then that's the point where everything gets big and everyone kind of jumps on this train, because black, it just fits to a lot more cases. It just fits to a lot more designs, what's there. The last question you might have is, should you upgrade if you're on the G1? Is it worth upgrade from G1 to G2? I think Not really. There is a few performance difference, a little bit in there, but I don't think it's something that you're gonna see like, oh, wow, game changing. I'm so glad I waited 7 years to have this massive difference, and finally I can upgrade my G1s to G2. Not really. I would say if you are planning to upgrade and your old fans aren't working, or you're building a new PC, go with the G2 instead of G1, because basically you get more performance, quieter performance compared to the old ones. But I don't think it's necessarily upgrading and paying extra for these new fans to upgrade from your old one. Would you agree with me? Let me know in the comment section below. If you want to pick up any of these fans that I'm talking about in here, go check them out in the video description below. I want to point out something here, which is that these P12 Maxes are the cheapest in here. If you don't believe me, you can get a lot of these fans for the price of one of these. So if budget is your concern, go check out the Arctic version, because they are the best bang for buck in terms of that. Anyway, links in the description below. Thanks guys for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.